It's a process. And in this process, what we do is we pass on some information. Okay? And that information is internalized by the receiver. Whereas in learning, it's a different, it's also a process, a similar process, but we have both information is received and it is also internalized completely, it is understood. So from last 2 days, I have been watching this. Pritesh, Akshar, and all these people have been giving you in both ways. Okay, they are actually giving you some information. Based on that, they are actually making you to understand certain things, then come out with solutions for that. Okay, this is what we try to do in the classrooms. I'm sorry for this. This was a beautiful video, but this is not playing here. It's a dog which goes around, and you have seen the puppies everywhere, maybe the kitten also. What happens with these is that the moment they are born, they run around and they explore the world. That is what is learning, self-exploration. Okay, we call it as self-study in our classrooms, and for these people, especially the animals, it is a learning to understand the world. One of the purposes of learning is that we try to understand what is around us, whether it is astronomy or biology or physics or chemistry. And what we understand, we try to tell our students, and that is communication. And therefore, it's again, the other thing is the learning. What does learning or teaching include? You see two dogs here. One is a pup and the other one is maybe a mother or a guardian, and both of them are playing. Now, this playing in animals is a sort of teaching. It's a classroom for them. They learn life skills. They learn life skills. So in learning, there are two ways. One is exploration. We go around and try to understand the world the way we want, or the way we think that that is the world. The other one is we learn life skills or understand the world with the help of someone else, a guru, a teacher. And that is because the guru knows a little more than us, and from him we try to get the knowledge. Now, if we are the guru or we are the teachers, so what are the qualities that we need to have? The number one is to have a little more than what our students have. That's one of the things. Maybe you are doing this in this workshop. The second one is communicate whatever we have to the students. Okay. So, as I said, life skills are taught, and teaching is one of the processes. And teaching and learning are always go together. You cannot have a teacher teach and then student learn at a different time. Both of them are doing it simultaneously. So it is a synchronized action that we have, and we what we call as transaction. Okay. Similarly, communication. Communication also needs two people. There is a sender, a teacher, and a receiver, a student. There is a sender here, Sharma. There are receivers here. The other way is also possible when you want to tell me something. But then there is one more thing in this, that's the medium. There is something in between. Okay? And in case of self-exploration, this medium doesn't come. You understand whatever you have in your surrounding based on your experiences, and that limits your learning. Whereas in a classroom, you go beyond that. It's not just the experiences of the students that make them learn, it's also your experience you are adding and communicating in a way that they can feel and internalize. And that is where it's very important that you use a medium. A medium can be a teaching tool, Medium can be a language, medium can be a video, medium can be a nice audio. I'm using this mainly because my voice is not so good. Second thing is, I want to reach out to the last person also there. If I don't do that, then obviously I will not be talking to him and the communication between us will not be complete. So most of us in our classrooms basically have to look at this. Am I talking to the person in the last row or the front row? Unless I reach out to the last person, we cannot reach to the first person. We can always, okay, I can go to him and tap him, pat him, and tell him so many things. But how do I reach the person in the last bench? Maybe he is not interested in my class. So, but then how do I make him get interested? That's also very important because in a classroom, you are the teacher. Whatever you have learned, whatever understanding you have, that has to go to all others. Not necessarily that everybody will understand what you tell. Okay, communication means you pass on a message and that message has to be understood the way the message is. Okay, many times that doesn't happen. It happens this way. You say something and someone else will understand this. So maybe I take her help just a minute and we'll have a small exercise. Okay, now what she will be doing is she knows damshala தெரியும்ல்வா ஆக்ஷன் பண்ணி காட்டணும் நான் சொல்றத அவங்க அதை பண்ணி அது என்னன்னு சொல்லணும். Okay, you see what I am doing is she is Tamil, I am using Tamil to communicate to her. This is one of the important aspects of that. What language do we use? And when we say science, is it English or is it Kannada or is it Telugu or is it, what is the language that we should be using? English? Why English? We will come to that later. Okay, right now I have her as my this one. ನಾನು ஒரு இது சொல்றேன், நீ ஆக்ஷன் பண்ணி காட்டு. ஓகே, அவங்களுக்கு அது தெரியறதா பார்க்கலாம். பாட்டி, grandmother, mull. Okay, you could hear her, all of you, what I told her? No? Sure? 100%? What did I tell her? Okay, so she will do some action and let's see how best you can. And oh, see, now 4 answers: grandma, grandmother, old man, old fellow. Okay, now which one is correct? Tell loudly.
Grandma.
Grandma. And why was this confusion? Why was this confusion? Why 4 answers for that?
Language.
It's not that. There was no language. There was no language. There was no language. So you have verbal, non-verbal communications. This was a non-verbal communication. And in non-verbal communication, generally, abstract ideas are difficult to be conveyed. When we talk about science, it is abstract ideas that we are talking about. I can do one more example, one more try with elders here because she was young. So maybe you think that she has not spoken to you very well. If 2 of you can come from the back, Ibru Bani. Come. Okay, now I am going to ask him to do something, and again all of you will be responding and finding out what I told you. Okay, okay. Mari. 5 or 6 answers. Okay. Which one is correct? Even anybody. Okay. Now she will do. ನೀವು ಕೂತ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿ. Please. You could make out that because he had already given some hints. Okay. Because he had already given some hints, it was easier to zero down on that, but you still are not sure whether that is the perfect answer. Okay, are you sure? How many of you are sure that it is the perfect answer? I have not evaluated and I have not given the answer. Okay, they have also not said yes. So this is the thing. Now I will ask the same people to come back and ask them to do one more thing. Let's see the difference. Okay. Okay. Okay, done. We'll see. None of those answers are correct. Anyway, let's see how she does. What was the difference? What was the difference? There, see, the point is, she said he doesn't know how to make chapati or puri, and she knows. 100%. 100%. Okay, so you learn by doing, and when you do, you get expertise. Okay, and second, you communicate. When you communicate, you have to actually look at the major points that you have to communicate. Now, if we take chapati and puri, what is the difference? You do the same thing, rolling is the same, so there's no difference. But the main difference is what you will have to communicate. So that means when we start teaching in the classroom, what do? We first understand what you know, what my audience knows. Then we build upon that. Give them the differences between what their knowledge gaps are. Then make them understand, and then we evaluate. Okay. So the exercise was just to show that it's equally important for the audience to be ready to receive the information, understand and do it. If they are not prepared, if they don't have a certain level of preparation, that will not be effective. And the teacher fails. The second option is the teacher also should know what the audience knows. So a communication is always in a classroom. Learning is always a business between two people, and that business happens together. It's not that I teach and go out and you have learned everything. It's not that. We both learn together. Okay? See this. That's what happens. And we are in astronomy. And thanks to Maria, it's a beautiful cartoon, right? So if Ritesh says orbit of a planet is elliptical, if we don't know what is in orbit, if we don't know what is a planet maybe we will be knowing. If we don't know what is an elliptical, or even if one of these words we don't understand, the problem comes. Then what do? What do? We have to ask. We have to try to find out. Okay? And if I am a teacher, I need to know which of these three things that my student doesn't know. Does he know all these three things if I am using this? If he doesn't know, I should fill it up. So this is one of the important aspects. I know that there are some humanities students here. and they don't know maths. Yesterday they told me, no, we don't understand maths, but that's a different thing. When you learn, you try to learn, you also have to be prepared for our students. If you think that you cannot learn these things, you will never learn. So you have to put in a little more effort. A teacher will not teach you unless you are ready to learn. So these are the aspects that we have to also tell students, and we also have to, if this, we don't have to teach the students, we can make them understand that and then go further. Okay. So we all have learned this 5 E's regularly so much that even in sleep we can recite that. Okay. Engage, explore, educate, explain, evaluate. 5 E's, right? All in this. I would add two more to this. In a classroom, if you can do that, one is entertain, elaborate. That's what Ritesh and Akshat and team are doing here. They are explaining and also elaborating on your knowledge that you already have. Okay, but look at the engagement in a classroom. This is a classroom. The first two students are fully engaged. Are they engaged with the teacher? I don't think so. They are engaged with the camera. Okay. Now all others have their own engagements. One of the challenges we all face in the classroom is how do we get everybody to be engaged with us? What do we do? What should we do? Somebody, pardon? Activities. Activities is only one way of doing it. That's one good way of doing. But there are many other things also. Many things matter. Okay. The first one is now the class is getting engaged. Okay. So whoever is, yes, there were some more answers here. I didn't hear. So you have to be louder. If you want to communicate, first thing is speak out clearly, loudly, slowly because you see, I give, so for the other person to, whatever he hears, he has to understand. Then he will build on the next one. So if you keep on, like a machine gun shooting, then the first sentence you will understand, the fourth sentence you will understand, the in between is gone. Okay, it's very important that the pauses that we give, the variations that we use, all these things you all know very well. I don't have to tell. But what I'm trying to do is these are important communication tools to engage people. It's not just TLM. Okay, your actions. I saw Akshat and Pritesh explaining about elliptical orbits with their gestures. That's one of the important engaging tools. How many of us use it? It doesn't mean that we have to dance. There are some teachers who dance and teach alphabet, but that is not the one of the things. That's good for a kid of a lower this one. But if I dance here for you people, you will throw me out. So the audience, the engagement depends upon your audience. The communication depends upon your audience. That you have to keep in mind. Okay. These are the important things that we need to remember when we do. In engagement, important thing is your language, your verbal and non-verbal communication. It's equally important that you speak loudly, clearly, so that everybody understands, and a little bit slowly. 40 minutes, a huge syllabus, curriculum, how do I complete? Is the question that we all ask and we rush. Okay. But then how much of that are we reaching with those things? It's better we go a little slow, then fill it up all the gaps later than missing out a lot more. Okay. I said explore your hands-on activities, give you a chance to explore along with your students. So both of you have to be engaged in that. It's not just one person's activity. Then education or educate, there your abilities to communicate becomes very important. What I'm talking about here is that whose communication is very important. Okay. If you are looking at explain, again, teacher has to be very communicative. Evaluate, and there both the student and teacher's abilities, the way they communicate becomes very important. If I ask you a question, okay, my question has to be clear to you. Akshat was telling in the previous session, if you don't understand this question, please ask me. Okay. Now, if my question is not understood, you will not be able to communicate back to me. Second, you have the perfect answer, but you are not able to answer it or tell that answer perfect. Okay. The problem is your communication ability. So, in an evaluation, it is very important that both the teacher, learner, and the teacher, both of them have a communication ability equal. So how do we match this? We have to come down a little bit. If the teacher has a little better ability and the student doesn't have, then we need to understand that, and accordingly we have to, I won't say adjust, I would say synchronize, so that you both communicate equally well. That's very important. Most of us as teachers, when we look at an answer script, we say that, okay, this English is bad, so he doesn't know anything. Maybe a little bit of bias will always be there with us. And we need to wear our biases like shoes. Like shoes, because when we go to temples, we leave the shoes outside and get inside. Right? Similarly, if I am going to a classroom, all my biases, all my prejudices, I should leave outside the classroom and then come to the class, so that all of us are equal. Okay, what I may be saying today is from my perspective. And if you have a similar experience, you will understand those things and say, yes, agree with me. But your experiences are different, then you will not agree. Okay, and that's it. Now, what is this? Is the answer to this question always the same? When does the answer change? Every? Why? Why? Thinking capacity. Okay. Any other answer?
Negative
Huh.
instead of active. So then they might go, some people are more academic intending, practical, more philosophy, but others who are trying to languages.
Okay. Anybody else? Lateral? Lateral thinking is different. Okay. Question should be properly drafted. What do you mean by question should be properly drafted? Okay. What shape? 100. So we will look at this question a little bit later. Okay. The factors that affect communication are this. Okay. This is not exhaustive, but there can be many more. But most important are this. One is the competence of the receiver and sender. Okay. I'm sending the message. If my competence is low, the communication will also be low. What is meant by competence? One is my understanding of what information I should be giving you. If I am not clear about what I should be speaking to you, I'll be speaking gibberish, nonsense. Okay, so I can go on and give a lecture and a sermon for almost 1 hour. I don't know what will happen to you. You all will listen because I will have a lot of anecdotes to include in that. At the end, when you go out, if you want to recall, you will not have anything. So my competence is in understanding the subject that I want to teach, and then what I want to teach. I should be very, very clear about that. Unless I am very clear, that's the clarity with this one. That's the competence of the sender. It will fail. Similarly, The receiver also should be ready. What does that mean? Receiver should be ready. Now my competence with her is different. And if I say that she is not listening to me, she is not understanding me, the fault lies with me because I have not understood that audience. So that's very important. If I have to speak to her, my language, the way I deliver or the present my talk or the information that I give, all these things have to be packaged against the experience that she might have had. So that means I have to first understand her and then start speaking. Okay. Environment. Trust has to be. You have to first develop a trust between your audience and yourself. What's the trust? So the moment I say that I am a great scientist, I don't know whether you will develop the trust. But get intimate with the people. In the classroom, it's very important. Most of us will stand at the blackboard. I have seen a lot of my colleagues and then never try to interact with a student if he is not listening to us. It doesn't harm asking the question or just asking why he is not listening, but in a way that doesn't affect his self-respect. This is very important. If I say that, okay, your answer is wrong, the moment I say that, I have lost him for the rest of my class. That's very important. And that is the trust. And then the way that I speak to you, the non-verbal communication, my gestures, it should be good. Recently, I saw it, we were evaluating a teacher. He was extremely good in all teaching. The only problem was the moment he entered the class, he will start very loudly. And that puts off a lot of people. Not that he was, threatening anybody or anything. The voice itself is that. If you realize, you will have to again do that. But building the trust between your audience and this is not just by voice or non-verbal communication. It also means how good you are in that subject and whether you are talking to them in their own terms, in their own experiences. If I start talking about the laboratory experiences that I have had with you, probably you would not listen to this lecture. So if I start giving you examples from your classrooms, that will be one of the important things. Okay. And medium, of course, I will not touch that. Okay. You can use anything. Lastly, emotions in a classroom is very important. So an anxiety, a fear, or an anger, all these can affect your communication. This has happened to even many of us like this. If you are speaking to a stranger and you're anxious that his English is far superior to yours, obviously you start committing mistakes in your English, even though you are good. So your anxiety also affects the communication abilities. And in a classroom, this can happen between the students and teachers many times over. A student might be scared of a teacher, or a teacher might be off mood. Many of you would have experienced when you are not in a good mood, you will not be able to take the class the way that you do many of the times. You are a good teacher, but still some days it's very bad. Okay. And why does that happen? This. So this is another E that we have to keep very much in the know. Okay. Context is very important. And what? Yes. Without threatening.
How to win the trust of the student?
You are asking me the most difficult question. Okay, it depends upon the classroom, the way you behave, and the cultural setting of the students. Okay, the first and foremost thing that you need to understand is what cultural setting they are coming in, what affects their behavior, and how do you respond to that. Okay, for example, let me tell you, once my son, he went out somewhere playing, he came home and he was singing loudly. And what was he singing? Kannada people here will understand. Boli magane, sule magane, boli magane. Now, at home, we never use these words. These are all, swear words. We never use these. He was singing loudly. What do you do? We said, where did you learn this? He went out, he learns outside. Okay. I said, exploration is always there. The classroom, we teach, but they learn outside. Now, should I shout at him and say that, no, you should not do? Okay. He was, now he is a grown up. At that time, he was around 7 years. 7 years. Okay. Now, the same thing happens with us also. Okay. We'll do one exercise. Please take a sheet of paper. Amok, give me one sheet. So we'll have some origami. Few minutes. In any sheet or we'll do some origami. You have this? Any sheet like this. Maybe you take your timetable out, and that is another teacher's qualities. When you have, you need to understand what resources you have. You don't have to wait for every resource to come to you. See what resource you have and how best you can use in the classroom. Okay, so you take out the timetable and we will do this. Ready? Okay, fold it into half. First step. Done? Show me. Now, just look at the way what you have done. What did I say? Fold it into. Is my communication bad? 100% correct? No. Thing is, whatever it is, as a listener, you should have listened to that carefully. What is how? The question should have come to you. Okay? Is it vertically or horizontal? Never care. Show it like this. Let Amok take a photo. All of you. Okay? I know she was there in my previous day. So, essentially, we follow the crowd. We follow the crowd. So, whoever does, if there is a convention, we don't break the convention. We hesitate and we follow it, even though we know it may be right or it may be wrong, whatever it is. So, asking questions is important. It's very important that we listen to what we hear in a classroom. We may think that textbook gives us everything. That is fine, but then if we are in a classroom, we have to listen to that carefully. So same thing happens to the children. And remember, you cannot listen to a person for more than 10 minutes, and beyond that you get bored, even if it is Sharma. Okay, after 10 minutes I saw some people leaving, so I change tack. I give an exercise, I tell a joke, or I make something to get your engagement back. Okay, how many of you watch Republic TV from 9 o'clock to 9:30 complete, or any TV, public TV, non-stop 9 to 9:30? You will not. In between there will be gaps beyond the advertisements. So you give the gap, because all of us have lots of other things to do, so our attention cannot be always on a certain thing. And the children are much more difficult to engage, therefore they will all be looking at the different directions, getting engaged in different activities. To bring them to one single activity, we have to have our own ways of doing. Keep your, I always follow this, 10 minutes or 15 minutes. After that, there must be some break. And the break need not be that you send them out and bring them, not this. So what we do is we simply change the tack, make a joke, or just have some activity. If you had noticed, all these things were followed by both of them since yesterday. Okay, that's one more important. Very important is face the audience. Not so easy. Face the audience because communication happens both verbally and you can hear only if the voice is facing you. If I turn this way, the sound, all of your science students, the sound goes there and reflects back. Okay, that's not okay. So this is one. Keep eye contact. Very important. I learned it very hard way. You will not believe if I am giving a lecture today, just 25 years ago, my legs would shake to stand before a stranger and speak. So it's not easy. But then it's not also difficult to learn. You can learn always. If a person after 40 years has learned to stand before a group of strangers, engage them and talk like this, I don't know whether I have engaged you or not, but talk, yes. So talk like this, it means there is a learning that can always be done. Okay. These are some of the things that I think I have already spoken to you. Speak the language of the audience. Use their idioms. If you are talking to a child, what does he understand? What is the language that he uses? We need not use very flowery language and these things, but what does he understand? From that, you try to teach him about the different concepts. What is their comprehension level? Are they children, adults? You have to accordingly change your tactics. Okay, I teach 8th standard and I teach TUC. Both are not same. Okay, so the challenges in both the classes are different. And the most worst or the most challenging job is nursery classes. You have to keep them engaged. You also have to teach them and you also have to take care of them. And most important thing is you have to behave most importantly because it's such an age in the nursery school. They will learn everything by just watching like the dog does. So if you are not good in your classroom behavior, you are also passing on that behavior to the students. So when I said non-verbal communication, your gestures, your behavior, the way you treat other children all matter in learning. Okay, where does that science come? They learn science also through these things. Okay, the same way, the techniques are the same. So the only thing is the abstract ideas of science, we use a little bit of different tools in communicating, like storytelling. Analogies or similes are used. They use plenty of them since yesterday to make you understand this. Then if you are talking to children, the simple words, always simple words are very communicative. Because I am an MA in English, if I start using Shakespeare in English to speak to you all, 90% of you will not say anything because the old man who is there and he has come to teach. Why should we worry? And you will sleep. Open your eyes. Okay? Eyes fully open, yet sleep. So that's not the thing. Lastly, context is the very important. What is the context? Here is the answer. So, what is this? In an art class, the answers can come as moon or a bangle. In a maths class, zero, circle, toroid, anything. Science class, convex lens, or maybe nursery, bun, roti, dosa, chapati, puri. So the context makes your communication very, very important. So if you should never forget that the context, which class you are teaching, what imagery you have to use, and what kind of information that you should give, how you should ask, you should be asking questions. Okay, all these things. A few things to remember is teaching and learning process or communicating process is constant, but it is not the same every time. It changes. I have used the same set of slides probably in an earlier class also, but that class was different, mainly because the audience. The examples that I have given is different. So these changes we have to consciously make as teachers in the classroom. The concepts that we teach might be the same, but the way it is presented, the way you take it to the classroom depends upon all the factors that I said. Whether the classroom is friendly to you, whether the classroom is having the tension today or not, whether it is happy or not, all these things matter. So depending upon that, you will have to mold your presentation that way. Okay, it is transactional. We should never forget that learning in a classroom, communication in a classroom is a transaction between two groups, the teachers and this. Both of you should be involved. It's not necessary that I keep on talking and you keep sleeping. That is not happening. If that happens, then it is my responsibility as a teacher to engage with you. There's something wrong with me that you are sleeping. There's something wrong with my lecture. Maybe it is not interesting. Maybe the language is not understandable. Maybe that the topic you are not aware. It is something new. So the fault lies with me, not with the student. It is mutually influenced. Okay. The other side, please have a look at it. Non-verbal communications can always be used to reduce these things. If you want to repeat certain things, you can also use non-verbal communications. Many times teachers do that. Can we use non-verbal communications deliberately for all the E's, that is engagement, then evaluation, explanation? Can we or can we not? Loudly, madam. No marks for this. No negative marks. I learn from you because I do not have that much of a classroom experience, so I learn from you. Can we use? We should. Like,
Again, depends on the context.
depends on the context. Okay,
Let's say we should.
we can. So many times we can use that. I have seen one teacher, he will just ask for repetition. So he said, okay, now the power. That's all. The previously he has explained what is a power. The whole class responded. I was totally dumbstruck. How this is a non-verbal communication and it is a recall in a classroom. Okay, and that is the kind of engagement that we need to have with the children, with the student or with the audience. Once we do that, you can use non-verbal communications also very, very easily. Okay, now this is something a little serious. If we are talking about communication in the classroom, science classroom, it means science communication, and we need to have certain skills. Like I said, it is a transactional business. Okay, you have to transact. You are doing a business and you need to have certain things to sell to your audience, and the people also should be ready to accept that. Okay, and in this case, what are the things that as a teacher we should be having? These are some of the important things. One is the information. we need to be informed correctly. So for that, we also need to have a lot of reading to be done. We need to listen and observe. Today we are doing astronomy class, and if we have not observed the phases of moon, all that effort that Akshat and these people have put in today will go over our head. So we need to observe. We need to listen. Listen carefully. Listen carefully. Writing is also one of the aspects of communicating well, and that shows how much of hold you have in explaining the abstract ideas. So make a habit of writing whatever you want. Then information representation. We use graphs, tables, and all these things. Presentation. That's where we have oral presentation. We can have models, multimedia, and posters. So this is how the entire process of science communication happens in a classroom, all these things. How much of that we prepare ourselves as teachers makes us good teachers. And that is the important. You can, I focus on the third one. Not all are good science good communicators. Not all of us. There can be several reasons. If you ask a question in a classroom, only few students respond. Why? Does it mean that the rest doesn't know? Not that. So these can be bold and therefore they answer. And there can be some people who are scared. They know the answer, but they are not sure whether that answer is correct or not. The third is they know the answer is right, but what if I tell and the teacher scolds me? Maybe the previous experience, the distrust is also there. So all these things can matter. But can we learn to be good science communicators or good communicators? Definitely we can learn. If I am standing before you here today, you may not believe. When I was 35 years, I used to, the words wouldn't come out of my mouth. I will stumble and just keep mum, not responding to anyone. In postgraduate classes, my teachers used to scold me just because of that, because I was not answering questions and all. So I had to learn this some way, and I tried, I did that. One of the things I noticed was the first thing is the fear of the audience. Okay, the moment you come in front of an audience, you are scared. This happens to most of us. Okay, it's biological partly, and it's also sociological partly, and lastly, your personality traits. So we can overcome all these things. One of the things that I did was very simple. If I have to face an audience, I used to take a few minutes, few seconds to make myself relaxed. I'll take my watch out, keep it on the table, take a notes, hold it. All this I do without looking at these people. By that time, my adrenaline would have gone down. Then I start using, in the beginning, I started using notes, written notes. So I will have jotted down points and then talk about it. You can also use a prop like this to talk of anything. And then slowly, very slowly, I started doing away with the notes, preparing everything, coming out with these things, interacting with the people, getting this. Today, I think Amog was telling, why do you want to prepare? I told him morning I couldn't come because I was preparing the slides and all. He said, why do you want to prepare, sir? You can come and speak like that. Not possible. This audience is different. So I have to at least do some exercise, prepare and come. Okay. The fourth question is for you to ponder. Can we change the evaluation or assessment methods to suit poor communicators? I leave it to you. Think about that. Okay. And then lastly, the message is there is no perfect communication. Even if you are extremely good, you have followed all the principles, then again there will be some students who would not have learned anything. Not your fault. Okay. That you have to keep in mind. What is my responsibility? These are the 4 things that I can think of. First, make them curious about the subject. I hope I did that. Provide opportunities for learning. This I have not done. So this, if we start interacting more, we'll be doing more. Organize resources for learning. So these resources need not be always TLMs. It can be a way that they understand things. Reading, writing, all these things. Okay. Engage the audience as much as possible, and that is the thing. And engage the audience means if you are on that side, engage with me. If you are on this side, engage with me. So both has to be important. And thank you. Now open for questions. And I think HBCSE will also add to some of those things that I have discussed with you.